What did you see at 3 a.m. that you'll never unsee? I peeked into my parents' bedroom. My dad was asleep, but next to him was a woman I didn't recognize, pale, still, her eyes wide open, staring straight at me. She didn't blink, didn't move. I looked away for a second, and when I looked back, she was gone. Dad never woke up, and he still swears he was alone that night. It happened when I was 15. Old enough to stay up too late, young enough to still feel like I needed permission. My room was down the hall, farthest from theirs. I had gone downstairs for water. I remember that part because I dropped the cap to the bottle and it rolled into the hallway, loud against the floorboards. I froze, listened, nothing. But on the way back, I noticed their door was open a crack. Not wide like usual when Mom would let in air, just a sliver. Enough to see part of the bed, enough to see Dad's side. And enough to see her. It didn't register at first. My brain tried to make it Mom. It reached for any explanation, a shadow, a blanket, a trick of light. But the eyes, they were open, focused, staring. I remember this freezing in my chest, like I couldn't move. I didn't understand what I was looking at, until I did. Until I really saw her. I turned my head, like I was trying to shake it out. Blinked, looked again, nothing, just Dad, asleep on his side, facing the wall. I backed away, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I didn't go back to sleep. Just sat there on my bed. Light on, bottle of water untouched on the desk. I told myself it was a dream. A leftover from some movie, or maybe just my brain playing tricks in the dark. But then something else happened. Something that made it harder to dismiss. The next morning, I avoided the subject. Dad was eating toast, reading the paper like always. I watched him for a while. Waiting for him to mention anything. Being cold at night, waking up to something weird, anything. But nothing. Eventually, I asked, careful not to sound crazy. Did Mom come to bed last night? He looked up slowly. What? I thought maybe I saw her in your room. He tilted his head. Your mom? I nodded. He took a long pause before answering. She's at your aunt's, remember? She left yesterday morning. I remembered, suddenly, vividly. She had gone to help Aunt Rita after her knee surgery. 3-hour drive. She'd called when she got there. Sent me a photo of their cat in her lap. So who was in that bed? I told myself again. It was late. I was tired. But I couldn't shake the image. The pale skin. The stillness. The way she looked at me like I wasn't supposed to be there. And it got worse. That week, I noticed little things. Subtle things. At first I thought I was being paranoid, but when you're already freaked out, everything starts to feel off. Like the faint perfume in the hallway that wasn't my mom's. The kind she used to wear years ago but hadn't touched in ages. Or how Dad started locking their bedroom door. Something he'd never done before. One night I heard voices. Not loud, hushed, coming from behind that door. I couldn't hear the words, just the rhythm. 2 people. A conversation. I leaned closer, heart pounding again. Then it stopped, like whoever was talking knew I was there. The next morning, I checked the hallway, no guest shoes. No extra toothbrush, no coffee cup in the sink. No signs of anyone staying over. Just Dad, reading the paper again, same toast. Same blank look when I asked. Did someone come by last night? No. Why? I didn't answer, just shrugged. He looked at me a little too long before going back to his paper. I started staying out of the house more. Hanging at friends' places, sleeping over when I could. It got to the point where I didn't want to walk past their room anymore. Not even during the day. And then Mom came back. She walked in like nothing had changed. Hugged me, kissed Dad, asked about school, and I was too afraid to ask her the one thing I couldn't get out of my head. Did you know someone else was sleeping in your bed while you were gone? But I didn't say it. I watched her unpack. I watched her sort laundry. And I saw the way Dad looked at her. Nervous, like he was waiting for something. That night, I stayed up. Sat in the hallway with a blanket and my phone, pretending to scroll, but listening. At exactly 3:08 a.m., their bedroom door creaked open. And someone walked out. Not Mom, not Dad. She moved down the hallway like she belonged there. Pale, quiet, her feet didn't make a sound. She turned toward me for half a second, like she knew I was watching, then kept walking, disappearing into the dark kitchen. I sat there frozen for nearly an hour, too afraid to follow, too afraid to call out. When I finally stood, I walked to the kitchen. Empty, window shut, back door locked. I went back to their room. Both of them were asleep. But the door was wide open. And from the inside, I could smell that same faint perfume again. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the stairs until morning, blanket wrapped around me like it could protect me from whatever the hell I'd just seen. I told myself again and again, it had to be Mom sleepwalking. Maybe I'd imagined her unpacking the night before. Maybe she only got home after I passed out. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. The way that woman moved, it wasn't how my mom moved. It was too smooth, too silent. Like she'd done this walk 100 times before and I was the one intruding on her house. That morning, when Mom came downstairs, I asked her casually, "Did you get up last night?" She shook her head. "No, I was out cold. That drive wore me out." "Why?" I shrugged. "Just thought I heard someone." Dad glanced at me but didn't say anything. That silence stuck with me. Because Dad always had something to say. But not that day. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Mom started to act a little off too. At first, I thought I was just paranoid. She'd stare a little too long at empty corners. Pause in the hallway like she was listening to something. One day, I found her in the kitchen just standing. Not cooking, not cleaning, not doing anything. Just staring out the window, not blinking. I asked her what she was looking at, and she turned to me like she'd forgotten I was there. "Just thinking," she said. But there was something behind her eyes, like she wasn't thinking at all, but remembering something she wasn't supposed to. Then one night, about a month later, I heard my parents arguing behind closed doors. That wasn't unusual, everyone argues. But this time it was different. The tone, the words I caught through the wall. "She's not gone," Mom said. "You know she's not." Dad hissed something I couldn't hear. Mom again, louder, "You let her in. Don't lie to me." That phrase, "You let her in," made my skin crawl. I leaned closer, but the voices stopped like someone had hit a switch. The next morning, I asked Dad about it. He looked genuinely confused, said I must have been dreaming. That they hadn't fought, hadn't even stayed up late. But when I walked past the trash bin in the garage later that day, I saw something poking out, burned papers. Handwritten letters, half charred. I pulled one out carefully. The edges were blackened, the ink faded. But I could still make out some of the words. "She comes at 3. Don't let her in. Don't talk to her. Don't even look. Just close the door and wait." There was no name, no signature. Just that warning. That night, I locked my door for the first time in my life. Not because I thought someone would hurt me, I wasn't even sure this was someone in the normal sense. It was more like, something had been invited into our house, and no one wanted to admit it. Weeks passed. The sightings stopped. The smell of perfume faded. Life seemed to go back to normal, school, dinner, TV. But I never really let my guard down. Then one afternoon, I came home early from school. I was supposed to be at a friend's place, but plans changed. I didn't tell anyone I was coming back. I walked into the house and heard water running upstairs. Shower, maybe, but then I heard something else, a soft hum. A woman's voice. It wasn't my mom's. I crept up the stairs, heart pounding. Every step felt heavier. I reached the top and froze. My parents' bedroom door was slightly ajar. And there she was, sitting on the edge of the bed, brushing her hair in the mirror. Only there was no brush. No mirror, just her hand moving through air, over and over again. She didn't look at me this time. Just kept brushing, brushing, brushing. I backed away, quietly, not taking my eyes off her. And then I blinked. She was gone. Not a sound, not a shift in the air. Nothing, just the shape of her still imprinted in my brain. I didn't tell anyone, not this time. I didn't have the energy to be told I was imagining things. But that night, I found something under my pillow. A single long strand of black hair. Too long to be Mom's. Too dark to be anyone in our family. And it smelled like the perfume. That was when I started writing things down. Dates, times, details. Not because I thought it would stop anything, but because I needed to prove to myself I wasn't losing it. And that's when I noticed the pattern. Every sighting, every sound, every strange behavior, all of it happened after 3 a.m. Always between 3:00 and 3:16. Never earlier, never later, and always when my dad was home. Not once when he was gone for business. Not once when he left for the weekend. I started to wonder if he knew. If he remembered more than he let on. Because one night, I found him sitting in the living room. Lights off, just staring at the front door. When I asked what he was doing, he didn't even look at me. Just said, quietly, "She used to knock first." I didn't sleep that night either. I couldn't stop thinking about that line. She used to knock first. Like it was a memory, not a warning. Not fear, either, more like regret. And that scared me more than if he'd said he saw a ghost. Because regret meant he had a choice. Regret meant he knew what he let in. I started digging, not because I thought I'd find anything supernatural, but because something was clearly being kept from me. Families are good at that. Making secrets look like traditions, calling silence keeping the peace. I went looking for something real. Something explainable. And eventually, I found it. It was buried deep in the hall closet, behind old blankets and a broken vacuum. A box labeled with my mom's handwriting, College, James. My dad's name. I almost didn't open it. I felt like I was crossing a line, even though no one had said I couldn't. But I did. Inside were photos. Dozens of them, most in black and white or faded Polaroids. Parties. Dorms. The kind of stuff you'd expect. But then, near the bottom, a series of photos that felt off. Same girl, different settings. Always with my dad. Her face was soft, kind. Same black hair. In one, she was sitting in his lap. In another, they were holding hands by a lake I didn't recognize. And in the last photo, her face was smudged, almost like someone had dragged a thumb across it. But you could still see the outline of her staring at the camera. I turned it over. One sentence written in red pen, "Don't forget what we promised." The box didn't contain anything else out of the ordinary, no letters, no newspaper clippings, nothing dramatic. Just those photos. But I knew instantly, this girl was real. And my mom had kept the box. I brought it to her the next morning. Quietly set it on the kitchen table while she was making coffee. She didn't even ask where I'd found it. She just looked at the top photo like it had been waiting to find her again. She was the first, she said, finally. Before me. Who was she? My mom stared into her cup. Her name was Elise. Is she dead? A long pause. Then, with a whisper, not exactly. That night I waited until they both went to sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about the way she said it. Not exactly. What does that even mean? At 2:55 a.m., I got out of bed. I didn't even know what I was looking for anymore. Maybe proof. Maybe just answers that didn't come in riddles. I walked quietly down the hall. Their door was wide open. Too wide, as if someone had opened it from the outside, not the inside. And I swear to God, I saw my mom sitting on the bed, facing the door. Only she wasn't looking at me. She was looking past me. I turned around, nothing. Empty hallway. When I turned back, the bed was empty too. No one. My heart started pounding. I walked backward out of the room, kept my eyes on the shadows, ready for something to move. I didn't go back to bed. Just waited for the sun to rise like it might explain something. Later that day, I confronted my dad. I didn't plan to, it just came out. Who's Elise? He dropped his mug, didn't even try to hide his reaction. Didn't ask how I knew. Just sat down and rubbed his face like someone who's been holding their breath for years. She was. He stopped. We were engaged. A long time ago. What happened? He looked at me and for the first time in my life, he looked afraid. Not panicked. Afraid. She got pregnant, but the baby didn't make it. She changed after that, started saying weird things, thought the baby wasn't really gone, that it was still with her. I didn't say anything. She stopped eating, wouldn't sleep, and one day she disappeared. Just gone. No note, nothing. When was this? I asked. He hesitated. About a year before I met your mother. It clicked in my brain, like a switch. That's why Mom said she was the first. Did you ever see her again? I asked. He didn't answer. I was about to push him when Mom came into the room. And the second she saw the expression on his face, she knew. We need to talk, she said. But not to him. To me. She took me into her room. Closed the door. Sat on the edge of the bed and told me the version of the story she swore she'd never tell. I met her once, she said. Early on. Your dad didn't know. She came to our house. Just stood outside. Wouldn't come in. She looked thin, empty, like her skin didn't quite fit right. I didn't think she was real. Until she said my name. Mom looked down at her hands. She asked me if I was going to keep my promise. What promise? Mom shook her head. I never made one. But I said yes anyway. That phrase again. Don't forget what we promised. I asked her what she meant. What Elise was talking about. She said Elise believed if someone lived in the house long enough, part of her would stay. Like the walls absorbed her. Like the silence between 3:00 and 3:16 a.m. belonged to her. She said it always starts the same, a glimpse. A shadow. The feeling that someone's watching. Then the door creaks open. Always at 3:08. And if you answer, if you speak, even once, she doesn't leave. Did you answer her? I asked. Mom didn't say anything, just looked at me like she was sorry. I didn't want to believe it. Even with everything I'd seen, heard, read, I still wanted it to be explainable. Trauma, shared delusion, sleepwalking, anything but this. But that look on my mom's face wasn't confusion or panic. It was something worse. Resignation. Like she'd already accepted this thing, this presence, as part of our lives. Like it was something that couldn't be undone. After that night, things changed. Not all at once. Subtle at first. Dad got quieter. He stopped reading the paper in the morning. Stopped watching the news at night. He just sat. Sometimes at the kitchen table. Sometimes at the window. Once, for almost 3 hours, I watched him just stare at the backyard, unmoving. Like he was waiting for something to come out of the trees. Mom tried to carry on like normal. Laundry, groceries, phone calls with Aunt Rita. But she'd pause mid-task sometimes. Like she'd suddenly remembered something awful and was trying to push it back down. I asked her once if she was okay, and she smiled so quickly it felt unnatural. Like the mask had slipped on before she even knew what expression to make. And me, I started writing everything down. Not just the time, not just what I saw, but what I felt, because it wasn't just sightings anymore. It was moods, pressure in the air, cold that crept into the room like breath on the back of your neck. Nights where I'd lie in bed with the door locked, covers up to my chin, and still feel like someone was inside the room with me. Then the dreams started, always the same. I'm standing in the hallway. The house is quiet, lights off. It's 3:08 a.m. I hear footsteps, soft, deliberate, coming from the far end, near my parents' room. I try to move, but my legs won't respond. I try to call out, but my mouth won't open. And then she steps into view. Pale, hair black and matted, her eyes fixed on mine, like she's looking through me. She doesn't speak, she just raises one hand and points, not at me, but behind me. And that's when I always wake up. Sweating, shaking, too afraid to turn around. One night, after one of those dreams, I got up to go to the bathroom. As I passed the hallway mirror, I froze. There was a handprint, right in the middle of the glass. Small, slender fingers, but it wasn't mine, and it wasn't recent, it looked like it had been pressed from the inside. I wiped it clean and didn't tell anyone. What would I say? Hey, I think our ghost left a fingerprint? I tried to distract myself. Focus on school, friends, anything that felt normal, but everything started feeling hollow. Like no matter where I went, part of me was still back in that hallway at 3:08, waiting for her to come through the door again. Then something happened that shattered whatever fragile normalcy we had left. Mom left. She didn't say goodbye, didn't leave a note. Her car was gone in the morning, and all her clothes were still in the closet. Dad was sitting at the kitchen table, eyes red, cup of coffee untouched. Did she say anything? I asked. He shook his head. Did you fight? He didn't answer. I checked her phone. Still on the charger. Purse still in the hall. It didn't make sense. None of it did. And when we filed the missing person report, the officer looked confused too. She left everything? He asked. Everything, I said, except the car. But a day later, the car was found. Parked at the edge of a wooded area 20 minutes outside of town. Driver's seat empty. Keys still in the ignition. No signs of struggle. No tracks. No footprints. Just the faint smell of perfume. The same one I hadn't smelled in months. Dad didn't say much after that. He withdrew completely. Started sleeping in the basement. Covered the bedroom mirrors with blankets. One night, I found him tearing apart the attic, boxes everywhere, insulation ripped out, old photo albums scattered across the floor. When I asked what he was doing, he said, "She's not gone. She's waiting." And then he looked at me. "She doesn't want you. She wants me." That's when I realized something. Something I hadn't let myself consider before. What if Elise wasn't haunting the house? What if she was haunting him? I went back to the letters. The photos. I even called one of his old college friends, a guy the first found tagged in a photo buried in the back of that same box. It took a lot of awkward small talk before I worked up the nerve. "Do you remember someone named Elise?" The line went quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You need to let that stay buried." I pushed. Told him my mom was gone. That I was scared. That my dad wasn't sleeping. I must have sounded desperate because eventually, he told me something I never expected. "She didn't disappear," he said. "Not like they told you." "What do you mean?" "She died. I was there. We all were. James found her. She'd overdosed. He didn't want it to get out. Didn't want to ruin her memory. So they buried it, literally, somewhere out by the lake house. I don't know where. I don't want to know." He hung up before I could ask anything else. That night, I looked at my dad differently. Watched him from across the table. Wondered how much of him had been living with this for decades. Wondered what kind of promises he made. Wondered what exactly he let in. And that night, at exactly 3:08 a.m., I heard footsteps. Not soft ones this time. Heavy, deliberate, coming up the basement stairs. I didn't move. I couldn't. I sat in bed, covers bunched in my fists, just staring at the door. I hadn't heard the basement door open. Hadn't heard any locks or hinges creak. Just the sound of feet, slow, careful, rising step by step. Like someone who knew every board that wouldn't squeak. I wanted to convince myself it was Dad. Maybe he couldn't sleep. Maybe he just needed water. But I already knew it wasn't him. Because after the footsteps stopped, the hallway stayed quiet. Not a sound. Not the usual creak when the floor near the kitchen settled. Not the fridge clicking. Not the hum of the heating. Just complete, unnatural silence. Then came the knock. 3 slow, soft taps on my bedroom door. I stopped breathing. It wasn't loud. It wasn't threatening. That almost made it worse. It sounded like someone waiting to be invited in. I stayed still, didn't make a sound, and after a moment, I heard the soft sound of bare feet walking away. I stayed awake until the sun came up. When I opened my door the next morning, I saw something on the floor just outside. A single black hair, long, curled, lying across the wood like it had been placed there. I picked it up and flushed it without thinking. Dad was already gone. His car missing. He hadn't said a word. There was a note on the table. Just 2 words, "Don't follow." I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know if I wanted to call the police. What would I say? That I think my dad's being haunted by a woman he buried 30 years ago? That my mom vanished without a trace and I keep hearing footsteps at 3:08 in the morning? Instead, I went back to the lake house. It took me a full day to find the exact address. I only remembered it from a faded photo in that box, a crooked mailbox with a barely legible number and a rusted tin roof behind a curtain of pine trees. I didn't even know who owned it now. Maybe no one, but when I got there, the gate was unlocked, and the driveway was lined with deep tire tracks. Fresh, Dad's car was there. I parked far back, out of sight, and walked in. The place looked exactly like the photo. Time-worn, sun-faded, like it had been forgotten by everyone except one person. There was no movement inside. No sign of life. I walked around the perimeter first. The windows were dark. The back porch sagged. I stepped onto it and heard the boards groan under my feet. That's when I noticed something in the backyard. A patch of soil, darker than the rest. Like it had been turned recently. And in the center of it, a small, wooden cross. No name, no date, just a piece of worn wood stuck into the dirt. I knelt beside it. I didn't want to touch it, but something told me to. As my fingers grazed the top of the cross, I felt a jolt, not pain, exactly, but something sharp and cold, like static inside my bones. And then I heard the door behind me creak open. Dad stood there, hollow-eyed, like he hadn't slept in days. I told you not to follow, he said quietly. I stood slowly. What is this? He didn't answer. Did you bury her here? Still nothing. I need you to tell me what happened. I need to understand why she's not haunting us, he said. His voice cracked. She was us. That stopped me cold. What does that mean? He sat down on the steps. Looked so small, so much older than I'd ever seen him. She wasn't always like that. When I met her, she was everything. Light, smart, weird in a good way. We used to stay up all night talking about things that didn't matter, stars, music, old dreams. Then she got pregnant, and something in her cracked. After the miscarriage, she changed. Started saying the baby wasn't dead. Said she could still feel it. That it talked to her. That it wanted her to stay close. He rubbed his hands together like he was trying to erase something from his palms. I tried to help her. Took her to doctors, therapists. But she kept slipping. Said there was a voice that told her what to do. That told her someone else was coming. And one night, she was just gone. You said she overdosed. He nodded. That's what I told everyone. It was easier, but it wasn't pills. I found her in the lake. Dressed like she was going somewhere. Hair done, makeup perfect, like she was going to meet someone important. I pulled her out, tried to bring her back. But she was already cold. So you buried her, I said. Voice low. He looked at me. I buried the body. Not her. Not all of her. Because she didn't leave. Not really. I felt sick. I should have told your mom. I should have told you. But I thought if I didn't speak her name, she couldn't come back. That maybe she was just a ghost of guilt, not a real one. He looked toward the trees. But she's been watching, all this time, and now she wants in. I felt the hair on my arms stand straight up. You mean the knocking, the footsteps, the 3:08. She's asking for permission, he whispered. She always asks first. I took a step back. We never let her in. He looked at me like I was a child again. You did. His words hit me like a slap. No, that night, he said, you opened the door. You didn't speak, but you looked at her. That's all it takes. My throat went dry. I didn't know. She's part of you now, he said. Just like she's part of me. That's why your mother left. She saw what was happening. Knew she couldn't fight it. I shook my head. There has to be a way to stop it. To get rid of her. He smiled, not kindly. Not warmly. Just tired. You can't kill what's already inside you. Behind us, the wind picked up. Cold, damp, carried the scent of wet soil and old perfume. I turned back toward the cross. But it was gone. I blinked. Stared at the patch of dirt where the cross had just been. I hadn't looked away long. A few seconds, maybe. But it was gone. The ground was undisturbed, no drag marks, no broken soil. Not even the imprint where it had stood. Just smooth, packed earth. As if nothing had ever been there at all. I turned to my dad, but he was already walking toward the house. Wait, I called after him. What do you mean she's part of me? He didn't turn around, just opened the back door and disappeared inside. I didn't follow. I couldn't. My legs felt like stone, my mind buzzing with static. I stood there until the sun dipped below the tree line and the cold started to settle deep into my clothes. Only then did I get back in the car. On the drive home, I kept checking the rearview mirror. I don't know what I expected to see. Her face? A shadow? Maybe just something out of place. But the road stayed empty, the trees still. It was quiet, too quiet. When I got home, the house felt wrong. Empty, like something had hollowed it out. Like I was standing inside a replica of my own life, but nothing had weight. Not the furniture, not the photos on the wall, Not even my own reflection in the hallway mirror. I went straight to my room and locked the door. I barely slept. The next few days passed in a fog. I tried going back to school, but I couldn't focus. I kept zoning out in class, eyes drifting toward windows and corners, convinced something was just out of sight. I stopped answering texts, stopped talking to friends. The only thing that kept me grounded was the journal, the one I'd been using to track everything. But even that started to feel strange. I'd wake up and find entries I didn't remember writing. Phrases that weren't mine, whole pages in handwriting that didn't match my own. Sentences like, "She's close now, you looked too long, she knows you're afraid." I tore those pages out and burned them. I didn't even think, just lit a match and watched them curl to black in the sink. But the next morning, they were back. The same pages, tucked neatly between the others. No burn marks, like I'd never touched them. That night, I heard the knock again. 3 soft taps on the door. But I didn't freeze this time. I stood, my hand hovered over the lock. Every part of my body screamed not to do it. But something deeper, something colder, was already deciding for me. Like a wire had been connected, and now it was pulling me forward. I opened the door. She was standing at the end of the hallway. Same black hair, same pale skin, eyes too dark to have pupils. But she didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. And then, slowly, she raised her hand and pointed toward my parents' room. No sound, no wind, just that gesture. I stepped out into the hall, barefoot. The air felt dense, like it was pushing against me. I walked toward her, every step heavier than the last. When I was just a few feet away, she turned. Not toward me, toward the wall. And walked into it, not through a door, not into another room, into the wall. I reached out and touched the spot. Cold. I don't know how long I stood there. But at some point, I heard the front door open downstairs. My dad. I ran down. He was pale, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling. He looked like he hadn't eaten or slept in days. "I need you to come with me," he said. "Where?" He didn't answer, just turned and walked back outside. I hesitated for a second, then followed. We drove in silence for nearly an hour. Past the lake house, past the edge of town, into the woods on the far side, where the road narrowed to gravel and eventually disappeared altogether. He pulled over near an old gate, rusted shut. We got out and walked. No words, just the sound of boots on leaves. Eventually, we reached a clearing. In the middle of it was a small concrete structure. Cracked, moss-covered, barely taller than me. "She's here," he said. I turned to him. "What is this?" He knelt and brushed away the dirt near the base. Revealed a small metal door. A lock long since rusted through. He pulled it open. Stairs led down into darkness. "Dad, I'm sorry," he said. And before I could react, he shoved me. I fell, hit the stairs hard, rolled, slammed into the dirt floor below. I heard the door slam shut above me. And then, silence. I scrambled to my feet. It was pitch black. I had my phone, but no service. I turned on the flashlight. The space was small, maybe the size of a walk-in closet. Concrete walls, dirt floor, nothing else. Except a mirror, old, cracked, leaning against the back wall. I walked toward it, breath catching in my throat. And in the reflection, I didn't see myself. I saw her, standing behind me, smiling. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My entire body locked up, not from fear, but from something deeper, recognition. Like some ancient part of me had always known she'd be there, like this moment had already happened and I was just catching up to it. She didn't move, just stood behind me in the mirror, her reflection clearer than mine. More solid, more real. My hands trembled as I lowered the flashlight, trying to break the illusion, trying to convince myself it was just shadows and nerves and too many sleepless nights. But even when the light dropped to the floor, her reflection didn't dim. It was like she didn't need light to be seen. I slowly backed away from the mirror, feeling for the wall behind me, keeping my eyes fixed on the glass. The air down there was wet and heavy, like I was breathing through cloth. Every inhale felt borrowed, every heartbeat too loud. Then, the smile faded. Her mouth moved, just slightly. I couldn't hear anything, but I could feel it. She was saying my name. Over and over, soundlessly. I spun around, expecting her to be inches away, to feel her cold breath on my face, but the room was empty. Just the flicker of the flashlight bouncing off the walls, and that low, nauseating hum in the air like something electrical pulsing just below hearing. I turned back to the mirror. She was gone, but I wasn't alone. Something in the corner of the room shifted. A soft drag, like fabric sliding over stone. I turned the flashlight slowly. There, half buried in the wall, was something I hadn't noticed before, a door. Not full-sized, more like a crawl space, barely 3 feet high, rimmed in rusted iron, with deep scratch marks around the edges. And it was open. I don't know why I crawled toward it. Maybe I thought there was another way out. Maybe I couldn't bear the thought of just waiting in the dark for my father to come back, or not. Or maybe I was already too far gone to stop. The tunnel was tighter than I expected. My shoulders scraped both sides. The air was colder, but not fresh. It smelled like rotting wood and wet hair. I kept crawling, not even thinking about how far I'd gone. Just pushing forward, feeling the dirt shift under my palms, until I saw light ahead, dim and flickering. I emerged into a space that didn't make sense. It looked like another room from our house. My childhood bedroom. Everything exactly as it was when I was 9. The rocket sheets, the nightlight shaped like the moon, the stuffed bear with one missing eye. I hadn't seen any of it in years. My parents had remodeled, painted over, donated the toys, but here it all was. Untouched. I stood slowly, flashlight forgotten on the floor behind me. I walked to the bed, ran my fingers across the comforter. It was warm, used. I turned toward the closet. It was open, and inside, sitting on the floor with her back to me, was the woman. Not a ghost, not a shadow, just her, hair long and tangled, shoulders hunched, hands resting in her lap. Elise, I said, before I even realized the word had left my mouth. She turned, not fast, not jerky, just slow, graceful, like turning underwater. And she smiled again, but it wasn't cruel, it wasn't malicious, it was sad. You remember now, she said. Her voice was soft, familiar. I never meant to stay this long. But he wouldn't let go. What do you want from me? I asked. She tilted her head, like the question confused her. Nothing, she said, I just wanted to be seen. She stood, and suddenly the room flickered. Just for a second, and then I wasn't in my old bedroom anymore. I was in the basement. The real one. Concrete floor, exposed pipes, cold air leaking from the vents. I looked around in a panic. No tunnel, no mirror, no Elise. Just darkness and dust and the faint echo of my own breathing. Then the sound of the hatch above me opening. My dad's silhouette appeared. He didn't say anything, just reached down and offered his hand. I didn't take it at first. Then I did. He pulled me up without a word. And we walked back to the car. I asked no questions. He gave no answers. When we got home, he packed a bag. Didn't tell me where he was going. Just said, if she comes again, don't look at her. Let her fade. Then he was gone. I never saw him again. And for a while, everything stopped. No knocking, no perfume, no dreams, just silence. Until a few weeks ago. I was cleaning out the attic. Trying to clear space, move on. That's when I found the photo, the one I'd never seen before. It was a picture of me. As a toddler, sitting in a woman's lap. But it wasn't my mom. It was her, Elise, smiling down at me like I was her own. I stared at that photo for a long time. The angle, the background, even the way she held me, it wasn't staged. It felt real, natural, like someone had snapped a picture of a mother and her son during a quiet afternoon. But it couldn't be. My mom's albums were meticulous. I'd seen every baby photo 100 times. This picture was never in any of them. I flipped it over. Nothing. No date, no handwriting. Just blank. The paper felt old, maybe 90s, definitely pre-digital. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. I wanted to burn it. I wanted to call my mom, ask her why the hell a dead woman who never had a child was in a photo holding me like I was hers. But I didn't. I put the picture in a drawer and closed it. Days passed. Then weeks. And honestly, for a while, I started to feel okay. Nothing strange happened. No dreams. No knocking. No shadows in the mirror. I started seeing friends again. Took a few road trips. Even made plans to move out, finally. I told myself it was over. That it had just been grief, fear, family secrets, all boiling over. That maybe Dad had a breakdown and passed it on to me. That maybe I just wanted to believe in something dark to make the silence make sense. Until a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name. Inside, one sentence. You never asked who your real mother was. No signature. No postmark. Just that. I tried to laugh it off, but I couldn't. Because deep down, it had crossed my mind. That maybe my mom, the woman who raised me, hadn't told me everything. Maybe she'd found out about Elise and never confronted him. Maybe she had a reason for leaving so fast and never coming back. So I did what anyone would do. I requested my birth certificate. When it came, I stared at the names for a long time. My dad's name, James R. My mother's name, Elise C. I must have read it 10 times. Checked the seal. Checked the date. There was no mistake. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. Or the one after that. And sometime around 3 a.m., on the 4th night, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom. Not heavy. Not dragging. Just soft. Familiar. I didn't get up. Didn't open the door. Didn't even move. I just lay there, wide awake, with tears in my eyes and that old scent of perfume creeping into the room like smoke. And I knew. She wasn't coming to haunt me anymore. She was just checking in. Like any mother would. Edit. 1 month later. I'm still here. Still haven't moved. Can't bring myself to leave the house. Every time I pack a bag, something small happens. A photo falls off the wall, the lights flicker. My phone dies even though it's charging. I stopped telling people. No one believes me. Some think I'm grieving. Some think I'm spiraling. Maybe they're right. But I know what I saw. What I felt. And the thing that keeps me up now isn't fear. It's the thought that maybe she never wanted to hurt me at all. Maybe she just wanted someone to remember her the way she was before everything fell apart. Or maybe, she just wants to come home. Final update. 3:08 a.m. There's knocking. I think this time, I'm going to open the door.